Just a second.
And then you have an hour.
Victoria, is Kaylee gone?
Hey Sam. Yo, do you know if Belinda's in today? She is? Wait, where?
I don't know what
Well, I see her online. Hi, Belinda.
Hey.
Are we gonna talk about something? Like private? You have time, of course.
Yeah. When you go for a meal, you must lunch for it.
Yeah, but I had my meal earlier.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm just
I'm
waiting
kicking
for
you out,
my-
Nish. I'm
just
kicking
a
you
mo-
out.
Just a moment. I just need the
Okay.
clean. And
Hello. I'm just going to be tied up for a moment. If you want to start with, touch base with Sharon. Get her to start
I'm
you
out
with
of
something,
here.
and then I'll touch base with you after that. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Hi. Do you mind if I sit down?
No, go ahead.
So a bunch of months ago, you asked me to get a receipt for a lock. This was the cheapest one I could find at $11.50.
Okay.
So if you could reimburse me for that, that'd be good.
We need a private conversation.
There's another part to this
Okay.
conversation, and it's talking about the write-up that I received for a couple weeks ago,
2 Saturdays ago. Yeah.
and then even the first one as well. I feel like as though both of these were fairly baseless. I was reading through your report, and a lot of the events were honestly exaggerated, and some of them were like completely just falsified. For example, you noted I came up at 8:45 p.m. and Paul and Alyssa were sitting there, but that was simply not true. It was 8:58 p.m. and I know
No,
because
it
I
wasn't.
quoted, I said I'm off in a minute and 58 seconds. Alyssa was there as a witness. You
So,
can't really
okay, we're
deny
gonna talk
this.
about timeline. So from the time I was up there and talking to you guys, and then we went down to the bakery and went through your list, swept under the table, and then exactly at 8:59 is a customer that came to the counter to get a cake out of the cake case, and you said, "Oh, sorry, it's 9 o'clock. I'm off the clock."
Mhm. See, that's also
So how could you be up there at 8:58
well.
if you taken all that time?
Okay, so first of all, I was up there at 8:58. Then we discussed till about 8:59 or so. We went downstairs.
No.
Then at 9:02
No,
p.m.,
you're
a customer walked in. I
So-
checked my clock and then said, "Sorry, I'm off. I'm leaving."
So, this is where we're at with this. We've had numerous conversations, and you were actually going to get suspended the last time. So that Tuesday, I had planned for us to have a conversation, but you called in sick.
Sure. Yeah.
No, you did.
No, that's correct.
Right. So then I was going to suspend you. So then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give him one more friggin' chance because I'm at ground level of terminating you altogether.
Okay.
Because I'm tired of you fighting me on everything when clearly our time frames were yours doesn't match up to the time frame of what happened.
Well, I also have
So you
witnesses for my
continue-
time frame.
To tell me that I'm lying.
Well, I don't mean to be offensive, but you are is the
Paul.
fact of the matter.
Do you want to work here?
Okay, let's have this conversation at the end.
No.
Okay, do
No,
it-
we're having this conversation right
Okay,
now.
so-
Do you want to work here?
Okay, I get paid
I don't care how
$11.00
much you
an
get
hour.
paid.
This is part of the argument. I could just give you a yes or no answer, but it's not very informative. I feel as though you get more information out of my answer if I gave you the whole spiel. So, I get paid $11.00 an hour.
Okay.
I do my work. I do it to the standards that Adam asks of me.
Mhm.
I get written up despite me completing my work to the standards that Adam asks of me.
Okay.
If I get fired from this job, I could have a job within 15 minutes walking down to Steak and Stein, Burger King, any of those other
Okay.
retail outlets.
Okay.
And then in the meantime, you're paying, $300 to retrain, rehire, have someone follow the other person through their job. And, maybe you don't care about that, but the fact of the matter is for employees of this store, if you want to keep any sort of reasonable employee retention, you have to cut them some slack occasionally. You can't just... Now, I didn't say a lot of slack, I said some slack. And what I mean by that is, if you see an employee completing their list as to the standards asked of them of their manager,
Mhm.
I'd expect that slack be, oh, you found one or two things out of place.
Okay.
Calling them out on it, acceptable. You can say, hey, that was a poor job, I'd expect you to do better. Okay. What I wouldn't consider acceptable to be to just say, hey, that, piece of, that item you had on display was crooked, and I'm going to give you a disciplinary notice for this.
Okay.
I feel as though that's very much of a stretch of what I would consider reasonable. And you've even linked it in your own photos, which is
So
honestly
we're going to talk
surprising.
about a few different things then. Clearly, you did not get the message from the conversation that you had with Sharon.
Well,
And
the seemingly conclusion we had with
So-
Sharon was that it's awfully weird that I was written up for these things,
no,
despite...
it was not. So,
Were
number
you
one, we're going to
present
talk about
at
company
that
policies.
conversation? Okay,
Okay.
sure.
This is actually a legal policy that you could be terminated for.
Okay, well, that's
So I'm going to explain
That's
it to you.
company policy, not a legal policy, but...
No, it is. Because this is a legal matter that we deal with. So number one, you forged your signature, or you wrote your...
According to you, which I deny.
Paul, this was signed before we went down to the bakery, before 9 o'clock. So if you're signing that you swept the floor at 9 o'clock, so this here, so if a customer were to slip and fall in that department, okay, and you signed off that you checked the floors,
hmm
okay, so you checked them at 8:39, you checked them at 9 o'clock.
Right,
Customer fell in between that time,
okay.
okay? So let's say at 8:50, or let's say 9:05, customer slipped on the floor,
Sure.
okay? You signed off that you checked it at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, which I did according to
No,
the
you did
clock on the
not.
wall, which may or may not
Okay.
have been off by 1 or 2 minutes. Remember, according to my story, I was up there at 8:58. The clock being off 3 minutes is not entirely unreasonable,
Okay, so hold
especially
on.
considering there's not even a clock up there now. It goes to show that there's a lack of importance.
No, I pulled the clock off because it's broken and we're getting a new one.
So,
So
it
I
was-
personally pulled that clock off. So hold on, we want to talk about timeline.
So you're saying it was broken? Doesn't
No, I'm saying that the frame of it was cracked. Do you
Okay.
recall the bottom of it?
No, I do not. And I know that this sentiment isn't held exclusively by me. I know there's many other employees who feel as though you're very much aggressively managing them beyond what they would consider reasonable. Well, you can't simply claim that you know the reality of the
I'm
situation.
claiming the fact that because you have a problem with me, because I have a problem with your work and your attitude, that you feel that everybody else has a problem with me.
Well, I
So there's
asked,
two colleagues in the store that I can tell you right now that have a problem with me and saying that I'm being an aggressive manager because they're not doing the work that's being asked of them to do.
well, I personally know at least 4 who were willing to give me statements on the way they felt treated.
Absolutely. Tell them to write them and give them to me.
Well, I'm
I'm
sure
not
they
worried.
wouldn't like to become. It's not about you being worried. It's about a constructive environment for both you and the
And
employees.
it's also a constructive environment when the employee that's asked to be done, get the job done that's on their list to get done, so that way the next employee that comes in the next shift is set up. That's what's not happening. So therefore, I have people that are being stressed out the next morning because the stuff that was supposed to be done the night before did not get done.
I completely agree. Which is why I'm surprised that I was written up for completing everything on the list as
Did
per the
not.
standards
Hold
that
on,
Adam
let's,
said.
Let's finish one thing at a time here.
By any chance, did Adam contact you in the last 3 weeks?
So, if our timeline, if we were upstairs at 8:58,
Okay,
okay? So,
which we were.
were we? Because we were talking upstairs for a good 5 minutes.
No, we were talking upstairs for
Before,
about a minute and
I'm
30
going
seconds.
to talk right now and you're going to listen. So we were upstairs at 8:58 according to your information. And then we talked for about 5 minutes and then we went downstairs and we went through the checklist and we talked about that and you asked me, how do you expect me to sweep under the table? And I said, oh, let me show you. I'm going to go grab the broom, and I did, and I swept under the table as we talked about the back room being part of your cleaning list that was not done. So, if that was the time frame, then how did you punch out at 9:02?
Because that wasn't the time frame.
My point exactly. So you were up
Exactly.
there at 8:45.
What you have listed there supports my argument, not yours.
This supports the fact that you weren't up there at 8:58. If we had time to walk down, discuss everything we discussed upstairs, and then you had time to go punch out.
Okay, well, so hypothetically, let's just remove ourselves from this situation. Consider a situation. Would you consider this at all possible? All right? Assume there's an employee up there at 8:58, not me, just any employee at all. All right? Would you consider 4 minutes a reasonable amount of time to walk down to the bakery and back to the punch-in clock, plus a short discussion?
If we didn't have discussion, yeah.
Well, it's not 4 minutes to just walk down the stairs.
I
and
can
back.
pull the camera, Paul. It doesn't matter to me if you want to do this.
I think you should, because
Stacey's in on Monday. I will pull the camera, and I can guarantee you that I am 100% right on this. I will not argue something if I know I'm wrong, or if
Okay.
I think I might be wrong.
well,
So,
I would like
we're-
you to
we're
pull the
gonna get
camera
back on
because
this.
that would be very surprising to me.
Because, so one of your things on your list is to face the pods. So
Okay.
back to the sweet blog part.
And like you're also taking
This
pictures.
is
So there's a single piece of trash in the department.
after you've signed off
I
on the sweet blog.
can understand that, you know, that's not up to par, but you've also taken pictures of things that are honestly quite ludicrous in there. For example,
Really?
a crooked.
Crooked product after
Yeah.
it's
What is a crooked product?
really
You know.
this is what we consider face.
Yeah. Okay. That's probably the most incriminating picture there. But if you look at any of the others, like why even
So
include a
so
picture?
it's okay to justify some of the things that are not done after you're telling me that you got everything
No, I'm
completely
saying
100% finished off your list.
Well.
So what I'm saying is, plain and simple, you have a list that's given to you.
Mhm.
Okay, your job as a Superstore employee is to do that list that's left for you.
Okay.
I'm going to continue talking.
Yep.
Okay, if you get that list completed before the end of your shift, you are to work on company's time,
Okay.
not go sit upstairs.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
Because that is stealing time. Okay? If you don't know what to do in that department after you've completed your task list, then that's when you call the MOD and you say, I'm all done. Is there something you need me to do?
All right.
Okay? Plain and simple. Because at the end of the day, I only have so many hours to run this store.
I understand.
Okay? So if people aren't getting done what needs to be done, then I'm wasting hours. Okay? And then by you sitting upstairs is technically it is stealing hours from the company, stealing minutes, stealing time, whatever you want to word it,
Okay.
which is actually also grounds for termination.
All right.
So I'm actually being very fair with you for giving you one more written warning.
Okay. So as per
So
company,
do you not understand everything that's on your list when it's left
I understand
to you?
everything you're saying. You're
No,
saying
I'm asking for your task
and
list.
the list. I understand that you want me to complete the list. I understand that there are some things that I did not complete to 100%
Mhm.
on the list. I understand that you're upset that I could have been working the extra, what you claim to be 15 minutes, what I claim to be 2 minutes of time.
Still,
But you're right.
Stealing 2 minutes of time
You're
is
right.
2 minutes of time.
There is still 2 minutes of time. I understand your argument completely. Now I ask that you also try to understand my argument, all
Okay.
right? And my argument is that I've completed this list to a standard to which Adam deemed acceptable, and I've done this day in and day out for an entire year.
Mhm.
And whenever there's an issue, I work on the issue and I improve upon the issue.
Okay.
And it's come to the point where I'll submit my list, everything looks good, and then the next day I'll surprisingly be written up for it without a warning, without any sort of, hey, this bit is not up to par, hey, this bit is not acceptable, hey, this bit is, not working too well. I've never been written up for the same thing twice in a row, which is the important thing here. And the first time I was written up, I took note of what he said, I worked on it, and you can see the evidence that I've had constructive improvement in the company. For example, he noted that I was clock punching in like 2 to 5 minutes late occasionally,
Mhm.
and I've worked on that since then. You can look at my,
Well, you're still late. 5:02.
not today, punched at
On
4:58.
Saturday, you were still late, and that was after you've been written up for it.
That was,
The clock doesn't lie.
I mean,
This is
okay.
punched in time. This is how you get paid.
I mean, if you pull in all of the hours, you'll notice a statistical improvement.
Let's go back to.
And the keyword here is improvement, not necessarily perfection.
Oh,
So,
that one you're on time. That one you're on time. That one you're late.
you'll notice the majority of them are on time.
The most recent. Late. Oh, just on time. Late. Oh, just on time.
And the company policy, if you could remind me of it, on
It's
punching in
5-2.
up to 5 minutes late,
No, it's
Is-
5-2 actually. Is your
there seems to
your-
be a
your
grace period for the
ex-
5 minutes, as I've been informed upon.
5 minutes to your shift.
5 minutes after the start of the shift.
No.
So
You have
when
5
I
minutes
was,
after you go to punch out is the grace period.
so I've been told, but during training, that there's a grace period if you punch in 5 minutes late.
Before.
I was told late. Then
I've
there'll
been
be
through
nothing.
Muhammad's orientations.
Okay, well, I have not. I was orientated at the Quinpool Superstore and then by Page at this store. And that was what I was told both times.
So it's 5 minutes before your shift.
Well, obviously, it'd be a grace period before then. It wouldn't make sense that you'd be upset that I
So
punched
why
in
why
early.
would we have a grace period after we ask you to be here on the clock?
Because, I don't know,
That
that's what you
doesn't
told
make any
me.
sense to any company at any time.
Okay, well then don't tell your employees
We
that.
don't tell our employees that.
I would disagree with
So
that
I
statement.
think, based on a lot of conversations that we've had, Paul, we have a miscommunication with what we say and what you understand.
Okay.
So there seems to be some sort of a disconnect there because there's a lot of
Right.
times where this example, exactly. So when Stacy's in on Monday, I will get her to pull the camera, and your next shift I will show you.
Okay, and
So-
if that camera were by to any chance support my opinion, well, what would I expect of you? Would I expect an apology, or would I expect this to
Absolutely.
be business as usual?
Absolutely, but what I will tell
Can
you
I
is
expect an apology then since you berated me for approximately 5 minutes on that last shift about how horrible my work was in a Gordon Ramsay-esque fashion of, look at this, you see all this? Look, I can take,
so number one,
you
I was
just
not
telling
being
me?
aggressive by any means.
You most certainly
I-
were.
no,
You were
I was
aggressive.
not.
You threatened my job.
No, I asked you if you
You're
wanted
very
to work.
Which is threatening my job.
No, it's a question.
Yeah, just like, hey, you want to have a job next week is also a question. It's very rhetorical,
No,
though.
did I ask you that? No, I did
No,
not.
you did
I
not.
said, Paul, do you want to work here? Is the exact words that came out of my mouth.
Yeah. And I find it funny how you can remember the exact words that came out of your mouth, but not the exact words that came out of my mouth.
Oh,
Because
I remember the exact words
in
that
that
came out of your mouth.
report, there's a whole lot of things that you quote and imply that are completely false. For example, you, on multiple occasions, put ... which
Mhm.
to me seems like you're not even considering what I'm saying to be true. For example, if I say, I'm done everything, and then you say in your report, it said, Paul said he was done everything ... clearly gives the implication that I don't believe he was done, and it's very dismissive. And you being
Because
dismissive,
you were not done.
and you being dismissive in your report is the exact same way you're being dismissive in like a conversation that we were having upstairs between me, you, and Alyssa was also there.
Mhm.
It's very dismissive, it's very demeaning, and it's very unproductive,
So
and it's
how do
very
you-
unprofessional.
How do you think I feel that I'm paying colleagues to sit upstairs on their leisure time when it's my time?
Okay. That doesn't
So,
change
Paul-
the fact that you can just
Paul,
talk to someone in such a dismissive
I'm not talking
way.
to anybody in this. I'm gonna calm down for a second because I am starting to get a little grumpy on this. So, me going upstairs and approaching you guys about that is not a dismissive manner.
No, but the way you did it was,
Really,
yes.
really.
If someone claims
So
they're
it's
not
okay,
done,
okay.
and then you
So
say,
here's the thing: I can just simply terminate your job for stealing time, if that's what you want. Is that what you're looking for? Please tell me what it is you want from me.
okay, I want you to recognize that you're being dismissive and aggressive towards employees that is entirely unnecessary. I'd like an apology for the way that you treated both me and Alyssa, and an apology for the first time that we talked regarding the locks, which was also very dismissive. I even considered the fact that maybe I am in fact wrong.
Really? Have
yes,
you?
Yes.
Because you don't
Because-
seem to think you're wrong on
No,
anything.
because I thought, hey, okay, we had a bit of an argument. I understand. Maybe I was wrong. And then the next day or next time I saw you, I came and I apologized. I said, you know what? Maybe something completely threw over my head. Maybe this was something that I thought was completely in my right, but she seemed very upset about it. Maybe I did, in fact, say something that was honestly not, a professional thing to say. So I came and apologized, which you remember.
Mhm.
You do remember that. So, but then it happens again, and I'm like, okay, I'm really being careful about how I'm choosing my words and how I'm conducting myself, and yet I'm still seem to be written up every single time I have a conversation with you, which is very peculiar.
This is the first time I've written you up.
Okay.
Let's be clear on that. This is the first time I've written you up. If your direct supervisor has written you up on other things, that's between you and your direct supervisor.
Okay, so I was told by Adam when I was written up that first thing he said when he came to me, he said, you and Belinda seemed to have an argument last night, which implies that the very premise of this disciplinary action was between the argument. It wasn't, hey, you haven't been doing your job very well. And we even discussed this for a while, and I said, the contents of this job, or the write-up,
Mhm.
are fairly baseless, and to an extent it was agreed upon on that fact. Now, not entirely. There are definitely things in there that I would agree that were definitely needed work and were perhaps worthy of a disciplinary action. However, the premise of that discussion was that there was a confrontation between me and you, and I remember you quoting that the way I was talking to you was very aggressive and accusational, which in reality it was, because I was accusing you of not properly notifying me of my lock. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, in my opinion. If I can't accuse someone of something, then how can I ever
So,
work through the
I'm
issues
hearing a
that
lot
I'm
of you
experiencing?
turning all your blame on me.
No, not
No,
necessarily.
you are. We talk about this thing in the business called personal accountability. Okay?
Okay.
I 100% am accountable for any of my actions.
Right.
I own up to them.
Okay, then why haven't you apologized for the way...
Because I don't need to apologize to you. Because I addressed you about you being upstairs and Alyssa being upstairs when you're being paid to work.
No, but does
does not
that's not
mean
why
an
I want an
apology.
apology. You're right, and I don't believe that deserves one. What I believe deserves an apology is the very demeaning way. Notable interactions include, but are not limited to, hey, are you done your work? Yes, I'm done my work. Oh yeah? You sure? Wanna check? I'm literally done my work. Oh yeah? I don't believe you. And that's not in your report, I've already read through it. But
No,
this
I'm
is
just-
something that you said, and me and Alyssa bore witness to.
Okay.
And interaction like that is like, if your boss came up to you and said, hey, are you done your work? And you said, yeah, I submitted everything, it's all looking good. And they said, no, I don't believe you. How would that make you feel?
So I can tell you right now, if I was wasting company's time, so if I went and had a 3-hour lunch at Steak and Stein, and my district manager came in and said, where is Belinda? And whoever I left in charge of the store at that time said, oh, she's been over to Steak and Stein for 3 hours. What do you think is going to happen to me? I'm going to get terminated on the spot. There's no discussion about it.
Okay.
There is a termination right there because I know, as a store manager, not to steal time.
Okay.
I actually give the company more time than what I get paid for, but that's my personal choice. Because I want to do a good job and I want to do the job that I'm being paid to do. So if everything doesn't get done, that all falls on my shoulders.
Right.
Right? So no different than if everything doesn't get done in the bakery, it falls on Adam's shoulders. Right?
Okay.
It all is how it works. So there would be absolutely, I wouldn't be sitting here having this discussion with my district manager because I was the one that did it wrong.
Okay, but what you're saying has happened to you is extremely exaggerated
No,
to what's happened to me.
because if-
I was not sitting up there for 3 hours at Steak and Stein. I was sitting
stop
up there for a minute.
rewording my words. So I cannot, if I were to sit for 15 minutes, okay, like I just said, I put in way more time in this company. I'm just making an example. Okay, so if I said I was over for 15 minutes over at Steak and Stein, or 15 extra minutes over at Steak and Stein, or I left at 4:55 instead of 5 o'clock, I also put in a lot of time, and I'm on salary.
Okay.
So my point being is that right then and there, I could have terminated the two of you for stealing time for numerous times.
All right. But can I at least get you to recognize that the situations you're giving and the situations which are actually happening are exaggerated? I was not at Steak and Stein. I was not there for 3 hours.
I did not say you were at
You
Steak
said
and
you
Stein.
were,
I said if.
and then you tangentially correlated
Okay.
the two events.
So clearly, I don't understand where you get this disconnect. From the words that come out of my mouth to
Mhm.
what goes into your head, somewhere there seems to be a disconnect of what I'm saying.
Well, I believe the opposite to be true. I, for some reason, can't seem to understand why you can't understand that claiming against someone's own word very brazenly is insulting to that person. I can't understand why you think it's okay to very aggressively start saying, hey, look, you see all this? Pulling out a bunch of stuff from the floor, taking a picture, claiming I left it like that, and I don't understand why you think that's okay. I don't understand why you think
So
taking a
that's
picture
Saturday
of
night.
some poorly faced...
The entire Saturday night. Please tell me what you think you've done wrong.
Well, if you could give me the
No,
list, I could
no,
tell you what
no,
the
No,
events...
nothing on this. From your version of that Saturday night, please tell me what you believe that you've done wrong.
Well, I believe, first of
Because
all...
we're gonna take 10 more minutes on this conversation and then we're going to end it, is what I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
So-
I believe what happened... First of all, if you weren't there, I believe nothing would have happened because the actions that I performed that night were entirely up to par with what is usually expected of me. So that's first
So
of all.
forget that I'm even there.
You're right.
You tell me what you did wrong that night.
Nothing is the answer to that question.
You did absolutely nothing wrong.
Nothing below what I would consider to be a normal deviation from perfection.
Okay.
And Adam has claimed I've done a very good job recently. He's claimed that I've improved a lot, and he's claimed that I've been working on things that he's mentioned I've been working on. And I understand that perhaps I'm not perfect, but it's also odd to expect that someone be entirely perfect. For example, I could claim that this mess here is unprofessional and should be dealt with. I'm not going to do that because it's a tiny thing amongst a greater scheme of other things that are much more important. If I see a single piece of tissue left in my department, I'll clean it up. Now, if I don't see a single piece of tissue in my department and it gets missed, well, a single piece of tissue isn't the end of the world. And ultimately, I'm doing every other thing on that list to a high standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe that it's worthy of even mentioning, let alone a disciplinary action for such a small digression amongst a very large list of things that I completed at and above par.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you bullet point the things that you've done wrong that night. Okay?
Okay.
So these are very serious things. Number one, signing a sweep log that you did not actually check the floor is 100% against company policy.
Okay, and I'm
Okay,
going to
no,
claim that I did
I
those.
gave you your chance to talk, and I'm going to bullet point this part to you.
Okay.
Again, stealing company time. So sitting upstairs while being paid to do a job. So I do recall that night you telling me one of the things that you're being paid to do is watch the service counter. We don't watch that from upstairs in the lunchroom. We get our 1 15-minute break in our shift. Okay? So there's two very serious things that you did wrong that night. So I'm not even talking about taskless at this point. I'm talking about two,
Okay.
one breaking policy and one stealing company's time. Okay?
All right.
So we're going to leave it at that.
Well, I believe the sweep log. You said you just arbitrarily claiming it was filled out incorrectly,
So Paul, I
and
will.
then me being
I will,
upstairs, you're arbitrarily
this
claiming I
argument
was up there for
and to
15
stop
minutes.
this discussion, not an argument, to stop this discussion. Monday, I'm going to get Stacy to pull the video feed from that.
Okay.
Okay, so it will show what time we came downstairs and how long we were in the bakery and what time you went towards the clock to punch out. And we know your punch out time already was at 9:02.
All right.
So therefore, when I get that video, it will show that you had already signed a sweep log prior to even going upstairs for a time that you were not even down
Can you
in the
show?
apartment.
Can you show on that video what the clock was showing when I signed that sweep log and went upstairs?
No.
Well, then you can't prove that I didn't write down the time that the clock was displayed.
Yes, I can, because that clock was right.
Okay. According to your opinion, and I disagree.
So according to your opinion,
Is there
you're
any
saying
evidence
it's
to
wrong.
prove one way or the other?
Do you not have a cell phone?
Yes,
Then why wouldn't you check the time on your cell phone if you thought the clock was wrong?
because we're not allowed cell phones in our department.
Oh,
Oh.
let's go back to the cell phone being in the department and being on it during company time.
Right.
Again,
So you're saying
So-
that it is expected that employees have their cell phone on
No.
them in company time in the
no, I'm
department?
just bringing up the point of the other.
Well, it
the
seemed
other
like you
issue,
just
so-
mentioned that it would be reasonable for me to have a cell phone in my department.
No, but you seem to think it was
Well,
reasonable
you
to be on
literally
the team.
just mentioned that.
No, I said, did you have a cell phone?
Yeah, implying that I should check that.
Stop implying things.
Well, you've implied a whole lot in the report that I find insulting.
Really?
Yes, every time you put ... and
Oh.
an English 101
You
lesson
realize
implies
every
that...
time you. So, that whole night you're saying you did nothing wrong. Okay?
No, I'm not saying
But-
that.
That's what you.
I'm saying I did nothing wrong to the point that it was worthy of a disciplinary hearing.
No, you said. Because I asked you in that night, Saturday night, what did you think you did wrong? And you said nothing.
Right. Because that's what I believe. I believe I did nothing wrong that was out of any sort of
No, stop
reasonable...
changing your words.
No,
You said that you did nothing wrong.
that's not what I said.
It is what you said!
Well, if that's what I said, that's not
When
what I
I
mean, and I
asked you
definitely
the
clarified
question-
very much soon after.
That Saturday night, what did you think you did wrong?
On Saturday night?
And you said nothing. You didn't continue to go on from there. You said
I
nothing.
did, actually. I talked for about 2 minutes on the fact. Remember about the whole grand scheme of things and the small discretions?
So, this is where we're at. There's no more stealing company time. Plain and simple. So I've made it very clear to you. So if you deem you've got everything done on your list that is left for you, that you were to call the MOD and say, hey, I have everything done on my list. Is there anything I can do? And that MOD is going to come down to the bakery and they are going to check your list and they are going to make sure that everything is done on it. And then they will give you other things to do within that bakery.
Mm-hmm.
If, by chance, they find nothing that needs to be done, they will tell you to go punch out and go home.
Really? Because that's not what I was told. I was told to stay there and watch the cake case in case
Did
anyone
I
needs
just
anything.
say if they have nothing else for you to do?
Well, yes, you did, and
Right.
you said that I had nothing else to do on multiple occasions while standing in my department. And I did. I was watching the cake case, which you seemed to fail to recognize then, and you
How?
felt... Well, by...
When did I even say anything but you had nothing else to do in your department? I will never tell you you have nothing else to do in your department because there's no department in this company that is clean enough to standards. There's not a department that does not need shelf audits done, does not need day checks done,
Okay,
does not need general cleaning done.
okay,
There's 1,000 things to do.
right, and...
That's why the business says, hey, Young Street, I'm going to give you this amount of hours to run your bakery because that's how many hours it takes to run your bakery.
All right, and so would that be something I'm expected to do?
To clean?
Yes.
That is something that is on your list.
Okay. So if I clean according to what is on my list
You did?
and then finish it, I did within a small air bound. And your pictures prove how
I'm not even looking at
comically
the pictures.
small the air bounds are. You seem to be very quick to show me the most incriminating pictures, but very slow to show me the picture you took of a slightly crooked, case of bagels or whatever it was, and seemed very slow to show me the picture you took that was
Which
of-
picture was good?
the one that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, you took a picture that was showing what seemed to me to be a perfectly fine display, and then another one which was a perfectly fine display with a slightly crooked single piece of, I don't know, something or other.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's insulting to say that this is the reason why you're here today is because this and that. To me, it seems like you're writing me up based on our interaction, not based on what was actually done. It seems to me that you don't like the way I'm talking to you, which you've expressed, and for that reason, you're writing me up, and you realize you can't just write me up for what I'm saying because I'm not saying anything
No, I
weird.
would not write you up for
And
the
so
way...
you're tangentially pulling very loose things together to come up with some sort of argument, and then you're slapping me with this disciplinary hearing.
I'm not slapping with you at anything.
Well, that's what it feels like. It feels
Well,
like
I'm sorry that it feels that way to you. But imagine how it feels to me to have people steal time. After I work my ass off every single day.
okay, if you really want 200% of employees, you can potentially pay them more than $11.00 an
If
hour.
I felt that that employee deserved more than $11 an hour, then I would push for a raise for that employee. But
I
you
don't
don't
know
go
about
over and
that one.
above the $11 an hour. So why would I push for
Because if you don't push for more than $11 an hour and you expect me to do all these things that are so far above and beyond, and you expect all this stuff out of us, I can say, you know what, I'm gonna just quit. I'm gonna go walk into Burger King. I'm gonna get some job that can hold a reasonable standard. And this is why front-end cash is such a crazy high turnover, is because nobody wants to deal with super intensive working conditions for minimum wage. They're just gonna say, you know what, I can go work anywhere else.
Right.
And the result of this is a big loss for the company, and your failure to realize this is a failure on your part. And see, this is exactly what I'm talking about, the very demeaning...
I'm just listening to you.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say, yeah, oh yeah.
Because I'm listening.
It's in your,
If
it's in the
because
tone of your
how I
voice, it's in your
choose to
posture.
listen,
Yes.
that's my choice.
Sarcastically.
No.
So while you're talking, if I were just to go, yeah, whatever, yeah.
That's pretty much what you're doing anyway, Paul.
No, I'm not. I'm looking at you, I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm
But
acknowledging
you're
that I've
not
heard what
listening
you're
to
saying.
what I'm saying.
I've heard what I'm saying, and I've reported
So-
it back to you.
We're going to end this conversation because we're going on a hamster wheel.
Well, because I feel like you fail to recognize your position. I've already shown that I recognize what you're expecting of me, why I'm here, why you're frustrated. I recognize this and I've told this to you, but you failed to tell this back to me. You failed to tell me that, okay, I agree, perhaps the way I was talking to you was a little demeaning and aggressive and perhaps unwarranted. You seem to think that you can do no wrong and that everything we can do is... It feels as though you're trying to corral toddlers to work for your store, when in reality, we're reasonable adults who are willing to do anything that is reasonable, and we do this, and the way you treat us in return is just embarrassing.
So, okay. I'm just gonna end this conversation.
So you still don't agree with that?
No, I do not.
No. Okay.
So, I will pull the video on Monday,
Right.
and we'll go from there.
Okay. If you're gonna actually just refuse to listen
I listened.
to me,
Oh, I listened for
if
the
you're gonna
past
refuse
hour.
to recognize that you're being very demeaning and aggressive, and you're honestly berating me and other employees. I've talked to 3 or 4 employees, and they all seem to have the same opinion of you, of how...
Who did you?
I'm not going to tell you because that puts their best interests
Does it?
very in a bad spot. Seems like they definitely don't want to come public with this because then your vendetta will just be moved on to them, and I'm not going to tell you that for obvious reasons.
Okay. So you still didn't answer my question I asked you earlier.
I feel like until you go and recognize this, I don't want to work for this company. And if you're not going to recognize this, I'm going to walk out here and I'm going to quit.
It's completely up to you.
Okay. So we're not going anywhere with this?
No.
Okay, could I have my $11.50 for the lock that you destroyed?
Absolutely.
And how would I expect to be paid for this?
I'm going to get it from the cash up front.
Alright, we could go do that, and then
Okay,
I'm
so
going
I
to
will
go
go
punch
get the
out.
money, and if you're quitting, then I need your 2 weeks notice.
Oh,
Or your letter of recognition. Or,
resignation.
Yeah.
Alright, I can go fill that out then.
Okay. That's what you want to do. That's up to you.
And what are the terms of the resignation? It's 2 weeks of,
No, I don't even need 2 weeks notice.
you don't need 2 weeks notice?
No.
Alright.
So
So,
if you're
would I
walking
be-
out that door, then that's your notice.
So if
I
I-
just need it written down on
So
a
if
piece
I
of
just
paper.
walk out the door now,
Yep.
I'd be expected to be paid up until
Nope.
today.
Nope.
I would not be. So I would not get paid for the
You would not
43
get-
minutes I was in today.
Oh yeah, you will get paid for the 43 minutes, so you
Right.
can punch out
And everything before that.
anything you've worked. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And then nothing after.
Right.
Okay, that's fine by me. Let's take this with me.
Well, do you want your money?
Yes.
Then I need the receipt.
But I'd like to keep the receipt after you're done with it.
I need the receipt for cash office. So if you want, I can give you a copy of the receipt, but I need the actual
Okay,
receipt for
fine.
my
A
cash
copy, a
office.
copy works for me too. I need it for recording purposes. Sorry you had to come to this, but honestly, I don't treat people like this, and I don't expect to be treated like this.
And I don't expect to be spoken to like that and then saying.
You'll find the way I've spoken to you is entirely